we have given the overview of Jenkins, which is a server who will manage the deploy, promote, and manage the environment. So basically, we would be using the connectivity with GitHub Actions with Jenkins so that our code can be easily deployed, managed in the CI/CD pipeline, guys. Okay, so for this, I will follow this workflow where I will have to manage certain sets. So this I will rub that way. So guys, I will be following these steps. First is GitHub repo, which I have already in the GitHub account where you can see managed the GitHub actions in the GitHub workflow. So let's me log into the GitHub account. So I will log into github.com and go to the my repository of single node cluster. So this is my repository of kind CI. I have given the name and we have run the workflow under GitHub Actions. If you are following my playlist, guys, so this is the workflow which we have created for single node cluster. And when we check this kind ci.yml file, you would come to know that we have created a single node cluster. And check out this and install the kubectl manually so that we can install the kind and created a single node cluster, guys. So till now that point we have configured this. Now next step is we will build the Docker image, guys. So why the Docker image is needed? So let me tell you the diagram of Docker. So basically, guys, a Docker is a containerized application. So talking about this diagram, so the Docker which is holding the container image. Okay, so we have in our example we have a hello image. As you know that we have built the image in Ubuntu in live app in a test app. Okay, and that image will contain by the container means the Docker will hold the containers, the image of the our hello app. Okay, so for that we will build the another container, create a new container for our app, test app. Okay, and after that we will I also we can use the push to registry for Docker Hub we can use so that it would accept those container. And after that we will trigger the Jenkins, means Jenkins will call it by webhook API, it will call so that our able to it will able to hold the image of the website or the app. So whatever changes we will be doing, we will be easy to Jenkins will you know test those workflows in runtime and able to make the changes. Means you can say that Jenkins here will act as a moderator, or it will check for the versioning part. Okay, what all changes you are doing in our website, or any minor changes you are doing, like changing the font or changing the button, or if you want to allow certain headers needs to be changed for the website. So those workflows can be managed by Jenkins, and in that way Jenkins will create the pipeline and will deploy it to kind cluster, which is our CI/CD pipeline which we have created and created a single node cluster. Okay, so this is about our preparation of our workflow, like what we will do here basically. Now what are Jenkins need preparing the Jenkins environment, the third step I will write here. Okay, so the now next step would be to create a environment of preparing the Jenkins environment. This is the third step. So what I will need for this, I will need the Docker, which is optional. Okay, and what are things I will need for it? As first I had in Docker, which holding the container. For that reason, I will need the Docker. And the next thing I will need the kubectl, which is a containerized application since I have deployed the kind in deploying the kind cluster in if in Kubernetes. So which is we are managing a single node cluster. So only we are fine only we are using when Jenkins manages the cluster. So since we are managing a single node cluster in kind, so that's the reason I would be using the kind. Okay. Now next thing what we will do, what I will need next thing, I would need to access to kubeconfig. Kubeconfig, which is nothing, it's a file in our Kubernetes environment to access the configuration. I will show in Oracle VirtualBox. where I have created the VM of our Ubuntu. So let it loads Ubuntu virtual machine. Once it gets started, we will check the next steps for accessing the config, and we'll write certain commands to ensure that our machine is loaded, our Ubuntu virtual machine, where we have created a uh, single node cluster. So here I will go to the terminal. You can also do SSH if you have access to the putty environment by port 22. Okay, and here I will check the version so that I would like to know what all deployments I have done. So I will write the command. Here I can write kubectl version. So I will need to know the client version what I am using. So let's see. Okay, this is the client version of and customized version 5.7 and version 1 we are using. And what all the kind version, let's see. Kind which we have developed the single node cluster. So this is the Linux AMD image, and Docker version also we have, since we have installed it Docker. So this is the Docker version. Git commit, you can see that we have committed the workflow, and date also we can see here of the client version as well as the server version. This is for about the Docker. So all the prerequisite we have, and this we will need it on Jenkins nodes. Okay. Now, since we know that we have created a cluster, so we'll get the information of a cluster in also. So I will write sudo kubectl get deployments. So it will ask me for the password. So I will type the password. Okay, password I typed wrong. Okay, so this is the like unhandled error kubectl. Okay, I will need to write the kubectl get nodes. Let me say. Okay, this is the control plane node, guys, which we have installed, and the API service not communicating with it. That's why we are not able to get the deployment. Okay, so this is a nodes, and let me take the view of pods. Kubectl get pods. Okay, so this is the see, you can see that our one of three total three instances are running of hello, and here you can see that we have run it out, restarts the pods at different. So if the scaling it is done here, like if one pod has getting maximum resources or CPU usage, then other that we can restart those pod as well. Okay, guys. Now we have to get the cluster version, so we can write cluster info. We can check it from our YML file so where we have created it. So kind kubectl cluster info I can write. Okay, it is running at control plane is single node. Since it's a single node cluster, it is running at this, and you can see the code DNS is working at this point. Okay, so now what we will do, we will decide where this cluster will live. Okay, so for this we will have to check the fourth step here. So I will rub this in basically, and from there I will check the fourth step. So fourth step is we have to decide where the cluster lives. Okay. So first Jenkins, we will create a command. This command we can use, which we will write in our, because we have to push this command through our Jenkins. Okay. So we will create a cluster name. We will give this dev cluster as name dev cluster, and there this we will move this command. Okay, so what we will move this commands, this cluster dev cluster to config file. So here I can write in our terminal. I can simply copy this command and paste it. Okay, it will not paste because I have to write it again. Kind create, can maximize it, and cluster name dev cluster. So three, we are right creating a cluster in our existing, we already created cluster in our Kubernetes in our Kubernetes environment, and next we are creating this dev cluster and moving it to storing this to copy config file. Means we are fifth step, we would be storing this information in our Jenkins. Okay, so this I will write the fifth step here as well. What exactly we are doing. So this will be the step 5 where we would be storing the kubeconfig file in our Jenkins. So for what this will do, we will have to type this command. Okay, it's creating cluster. We have to wait for some time. Once it will create the cluster, writing the configuration, starting the control plane, creating a dev cluster. Okay, previous cluster, which is our kind control plane name we have given, uh, which is running at this point, and now it is writing the configuration, starting the control plane. Okay, so once this step will get completed, we will write this command as kubectl get kubeconfig. We are as dev cluster we have already created in the last step. So now we will write it to kubeconfig. We will copy by this command greater than command, so that it will store it in kubeconfig file with our name as dev cluster. So once our cluster formation is done, we will be able to create the command in our Kubernetes single node cluster, how it looks and how we can create it file. So I will write here Jenkins. Okay guys, so you can see that our cluster formation is done here. Dev node cluster is created.